Foster Show starring the one and only Ramon Foster, brought to you by the Get Go Cafe and Market, where they're serving hot, fresh food 24/7. Moan, what's going on?
Man, not a lot. A whole lot of owners meetings and coaches meetings, and you got palm trees in the back, you said?
I do. I'm at the Minnesota Twins media relations office in Fort Myers, Florida, because, Moan, when you're covering all the sports, you gotta keep moving, you know? You gotta keep moving. The Twins were nice enough to loan me their office here because I could have pulled the Ramon card on them.
What's that?
You understand that we got to record the Ramon show here, you know? And this is really important stuff.
They're like, who? They might remember my kid if he's good enough to play MLB ball, but they're going to look at me like, who? This is all good.
I could see RJ's picture up here next to Kirby Puckett and Rod Carew and everyone else up here.
As long as he make good grades to get to that point, we're all good.
I hear you. Let's talk a little bit about those owners' meetings, which occurred on the other side of this state and are now complete. And they finished with a bang in that they finally settled the longstanding discussion about how to handle overtime. Mike Tomlin had made clear his position beforehand that he wasn't in favor of any changes. He always says that. Ramon, we talked about it this week, the whole purist football junkie thing and everything. But they ended up with a pretty reasonable compromise, didn't they?
They did. But can I say it's two things that come to mind to me when we're speaking about this new rule. One, they got bullied by social media to figure something out. And Roger Goodell pretty much said that. He was like, we listen to our fan base, and because that's all everybody spoke about after that Bills and Chiefs game. I mean, let's be serious. And also the other side of it too is that Raiders Chargers game could have ended in the tie too. So this pretty much clears that up as far as that goes. And the other part, people want to see quarterbacks battle. I think we as consumers thought to ourselves, well, what could Josh Allen have done?
It was all about Josh Allen. And it was all about the beleaguered fans of Buffalo, the woe is me fans of Buffalo, because they got Scott Norwooded into eternity here. And they were going to – and look – they have a really good team. They haven't gotten it done. And they were going to blame somebody other than, like the football gods or something.
Yeah, and that's all it was. Initially, I felt like, man, this is very participation trophy-ish because, you'll get a turn and you'll get a turn. And I guess I just got to skew my thinking a little bit by saying, okay, well, I had a buddy of mine say, well, both teams get a turn at bat in baseball. I was like, well, yeah, you got a valid point there. But the other side of me is almost like, well, if you know that's the case, stop them. That was my whole mindset of it, is stop them. And this is, I think, for the most part, it's only for the postseason. So I get it. It's weighed a little bit heavy when it comes down to the determination of who moves to the next round, because that is a heavy stake. I mean, truth be told, who knows if Buffalo is going to get back to that spot? Truth be told, who knows what happened if that game against the Chargers and Raiders actually does end in a tie? Does Cincinnati get another shot at what they did on this crazy run? So I'm not opposed to it. I just look at it and say this is a Band-Aid for whatever's we're gonna gripe about the next time. And one more thing for me as far as what I feel about this. I know a winner has to be determined, but can I say this too, DK? They can stop with the player safety and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're the union rep here, so I'm preaching to the choir, but no, when you're talking about 17-game, 18-game schedule here, you're not worried about anybody's safety.
I see, honestly, this snowballing into something else. The same way they grab data to say of the 12 times we studied in the playoffs, the 10 teams that received the ball first won, they'll say this too. Well, as many times we played overtime games in the playoffs, it's equated to another quarter, and that quarter actually enters to another game.
Yeah.
And that's when we start having a conversation about 18. And you can't do that until after this CBA is up. But
18 games is coming, though. Yeah, 18 games is coming. The funny thing is there is a perception, and it is a perception. You just made one reference to it, that the coin flip is decisive. And that's because the games that make the biggest impact on us are obviously the playoff games. They're the ones that are the most important. They're the ones that resonate. And you're right. The coin toss winners are 10-1 in the playoffs. Yeah. That's 91%. The coin toss. However, everyone will always warn you against small sample sizes. And overall, if you count all overtime games, including the regular season, the coin toss winner ends up winning the game only 52.8% of the time. So it wasn't all that big a deal, but it seemed like it because we remember Josh Allen standing on the sideline. And
I've been there before, though, as a player. The Denver, remember? Mm-hmm. Like we sat on the sideline and watched that go down. And it may have been the start of the new change, too, by the way. Mm-hmm. And we were just like, that's it?
What do we do?
That's
when do we grab our helmets? Yeah.
You don't. You know what I'm saying? And then, of course, it's the other side that says this, too. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the other side is, well, what if you did the college format? I do think that would be a little bit more exciting.
I have put forth myself moving to the college format. And every time it happens, Moan, I get hit with the worst blowback, and I'm surprised by it every time. Who looks away from a college overtime? Nobody. It's captivating. There's nothing happening at your own 30-yard line. There is something happening at the other team's 25.
And you know what? I'd say the modification, I think college starts 20 out. I started 15. So you get one first down, and then it's first and goal. And from there, you either got to score, kick a field goal, and the team got to do the next thing on the other side. So I think you make it more. I think there's a way to make it shorter and more competitive by doing something like that, DK.
Yeah. And, the bottom line is they made the move. They adjusted. And the one thing that you can always say about the National Football League, I think, more than any of the other leagues that I cover, is they do listen. And they do give their fans what they want, do they not?
They absolutely. And again, the hog is continuing to get fat because why, DK? Owners' meetings are pretty much taking over March Madness.
They kind of are. I mean, everything about the NFL is bigger than anything about any other sport. It's just gotten to that point, but I think this is part of that attitude. They do listen. Sometimes maybe to a fault. Sometimes they go a little too far in catering to, a New Orleans set of complaints or a specific market set of complaints based on a single outcome. But for the most part, man, it's hard to argue with success.
It is. Or, we can argue about sending the draft to Detroit, but I say that respectfully.
You got to give them something. They're stuck with the Lions the rest of the year. When we come back on the Ramon Foster Show, we are going to talk about, I'm going to open this up because I don't even remember here. Oh, yeah, Stephon Tuitt. We're going to talk about Stephon Tuitt and whether or not he can still be great. Welcome back to the Ramon Foster Show, coming to you live from two very different locations. I'm in Fort Myers, Florida. Ramon is in Hendersonville, Tennessee. Moan, my office is courtesy of the Minnesota Twins. Whose is yours courtesy of?
Me.
University of Tennessee. Baby.
University of Tennessee by way of Art Rooney Way.
There you go. Let's talk about a guy who's currently in the building and training on Art Rooney Way, and that's Stephon Tuitt. This is a really, really good football player who was really, really missed last year. And I know there was a lot, and rightly so, that related to everything that happened with his brother and the idea he might be done and this and that. He's 28 years old, Moan, and the last time we saw him, this was a dominant football player.
You know what? Still is. From the day we saw Tuitt come in, he has the build of a guy that's supposed to be playing defensive tackle, okay? Tall, long limbs. that wide athletic butt type that he have. You know what I'm saying? Like them dudes just explosive.
I'm not going to acknowledge checking out Tuitt's
DK,
butt, but I follow the point.
DK, you don't want to be a flat butt dude out there, okay? You need to have some power behind you, all right? Let's be real about what we're talking about here. Guys go to the combine and put on shorts and spandex, DK. Come on, man.
They do.
Come on. I said the unspoken thing out loud. You know why? Because my kid is like that. My youngest is like that.
I hate to say this, but I hear more football scouts talk about butts than about any other body part. It's the truth. No. It's only in football.
That's where the power is, okay? That's where the power is. And Tuitt's one of those types, man. And let me say this about
talking about the Tuitt's butt segment.
I like big butts and I cannot. Yeah, no, we're not there. We're not Sir Mix-a-Lot. But Tuitt is an athlete. And so much he's a friggin' headache of an athlete also because he's a mixture of talent that goes hard and also works hard. I never forget when he comes in and he was one of those Cam Hayward types. Who is this guy? Golly, will he stop? You know what the Castro used to call him? And we as a group started the Mustang, the wild Bronco, the wild. You can't tame him. You can't tame him. Like that. He's the Mustang. You just grab on and hope the ride ends. Like that's Tuitt. Cam will just get to the point. Tuitt will friggin' just come down your chest, hit you, move side to side, hit a spin move, and then do something completely different the next play. Like that's him. That's the value of him. So if you can get him back in the friggin' building, DK, you do that because he has that type of athletic ability. And not only that, his last season that he played, how many sacks did he have again?
He had 11, and he also, contrary to some public perception, was a full participant. Like he was in there all year. In fact, Tomlin even used him in the meaningless game. Remember up in Cleveland at the end of the year? I think he's kind of making a point here. You know, we're respecting your availability and everything. We've talked about his personal situation an awful lot here, but from a football standpoint, my feeling in 2020, and this is not praise that I would offer lightly, was that he was every bit as good as Cameron Hayward was.
You know what's crazy? Between good friendships and good teammates, there is a competition. Okay, I don't think they will ever say that or anything, but I know one is after the other. Okay? You know what I'm saying? Whoever's in the lead is getting chased down. And I'll say this too, we as a team benefited from that. And Tuitt's situation is very similar to Le'Veon's also. Man, if we can just get him all year long, it's always the conversation. Because you know what Cam can do solo. We've seen what Tuitt can do solo. If you got both of those dudes at the same exact time, imagine the headache that it can cause. Now,
but you don't have to wonder. They were the number one defensive front, according to your good, close friends at Pro Football Focus in all of football.
I know, and that's the important. So you ask me, can he still play? The answer is not yes, but hell yes. Okay, and you want him on your team. So when Coach Tomlin, again, you guys, we talked about this, him being a historian and a protector of the game, a curator of the game. He's gonna do whatever is necessary to make sure that Stephon Tuitt is who he's gonna be when he finally puts his hand in the dirt and be a football player again. So if he needed an entire year to get himself together, and I think most people understand why.
Yes,
you give him that because when he walks back into that building, 3400 South Water Street, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 15203. And he starts to practice and he starts to play and you get him on game day and you see what he is. You say, you know what? It was worth it because now we got him back.
We got him back, and you'll have him back probably knowing Steph as much as I'm able to know him, you know, from a reporter to athlete perspective. This is someone who is not without his emotions.
Oh, no.
Okay. And I mean that in a good way. I'm not talking about anger on the football field or whatever. I'm talking about just he's a heart on his sleeve type.
No doubt. And you know what's crazy? I'm glad you said that because I'll segue by saying this. You know, whenever I got my hyperextended knee in camp, it was from Tuitt and DeCastro. And all he was saying, Moan, I was just trying to hold on to the Mustang. And it was on the other side of it. was
you never told me that.
and you know what? And I wasn't even mad about it because I knew who he was going against. It's Tuitt. And I'm not going to tell Tuitt the governor down. It was just, hey, he went hard, fell hard, lost his step, and my knee went backwards a little bit, you know? I wasn't mad about it. It's part of the game, too.
Yeah. Wow. If they could get this football player back, and they know they have Tyson Alualu back, and they've got the best defensive player on the planet, and now you have a reasonable replacement for Bud Dupree and Alex Highsmith, you could be right back to the same dialogue from 2020. When we come back, an interesting Hey Moan question coming up. Welcome back to the Ramon Foster Show. You know, Moan, by the way, I'm on to all of these people who listen to this, who watch this. They just tolerate the first two segments. Like, they're just like, can you just get to the Hey Moan already? Yeah. And, you know, James Cole, by the way, who came after both of us on yesterday's Hey Moan segment about our hair, about us having allegedly unkempt hair. He comes back with, I was kidding about the hair, but I'm sure glad it led to an awesome segment to really appreciate what you guys do.
Yeah, no doubt, man. It was good. And of course, we take everything lightly here.
Oh, yeah. Greg comes in with today's Hey Moan, and he says, Hey Moan, what's the real feeling toward punters and kickers by the offensive and defensive players in the NFL?
Man, that's interesting. We look at, and one thing we'll say kickers and punters, but they're specialists, and they're football players too. But I think the magnifying glass is a little bit thicker on them simply because a good bit of the time they don't do what we do though on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, that's the part. If I can jump in, Moan, to clarify for Greg, when you're talking about the people who are off on their own, it's not two, it's three. It's the kicker, the punter, and the long snapper. Those are your three specialists, not two.
And you know what? I'll say they do serve other purposes. Quarterback drills when like 7-on-7 live and stuff like that. Some of those guys are the guys that snap the ball to them too. But it's this. They do their own, they do their own thing. They're football players, but it's also one of those things, man, I'm physically hurting every single day in camp, and you talking about your feet just hurting. We're talking about two different things here, okay? and usually, I know Swisham, man, was, and also Boz, always guys that were very sympathetic, like, man, you guys go through it up there. And they were very appreciative. They get the respect by being appreciative of what we do for them, especially the offensive lineman that's, you know, up front on extra points and field goals. It is a respect, but it's also one of those things when it comes time for you to do your job, your job.
Just put that ball through the uprights.
Please put it through the H, man. Like, you know, and that's where, and truth be told, across the board, that's what everybody on the team wants, right? Do your friggin' job. And it's respect there. And there's some guys also that come from different cultures, though, that certain people, and we've heard it in the past, heck, we'll just say Urban Meyer craps on them. So people that come from his type of situation, you demean them. And I'll say this, Coach Tomlin makes a huge point to make sure we know the importance of what those guys mean to the team. Coach Danny Smith, love, okay? He puts more pressure on them than I think almost any specialist coach I've ever been around. So there's a respect factor there. And it's crazy you say that because I respect all my friggin' teammates too. But I was telling you, I get a message the other day. You don't even know where I'm going with this, DK, but I get a message from a specialist. Long snapper, former of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Cam Canada. And he says to me, really enjoy listening to your takes, Moan. Keep crushing the brother, miss the heck out of you. And I was just like, again, you may look at, it's just a kicker. I'm looking at, no, that's one of my former teammates, a friend of mine that's listening to us. And it's like, you guys are doing some real cool stuff. I got the message like right here, you know, it's like
that's
Cam
really
Canada.
Cool.
As telling us he like what we're doing because he appreciate what football is too. And he was always a go harder like that too. So
see, the thing is, these guys can't win though, Moan. Remember Sean Sweesham in Canton? That meaningless game, and he goes down on kick coverage and pulverizes that guy and he messes up his knee. And it's like,
super.
No, man. And everyone was mad at him.
Mm-hmm. Super like, replaceable, man.
Wait a second. Well, you can't tell me that I'm not a football player. And then when I go and I'm a football player, you're mad at me.
Yeah, I know. They can't win, but they better do their jobs. It's how it usually goes. And especially with long snap, this is one of the most unspoken like positions ever between Greg Warren and Cam Canada. You know what I'm saying? I think people will respect the position a whole lot more if it was James Harrison.
And then you saw Debo actually try it, and then you're like, okay, anybody else? Anybody else do this?
Who can really do this? You mean to tell me I can't stand up and throw it back? No. And truth be told,
just walk it back.
Yeah, it's harder than you think to do those things. Watch training camp when Latrobe is open. Watch the amount of stopwatches that Danny Smith has, Coach Tomlin has, Kevin Colbert. Well, he won't be there probably. Maybe Brandon Hunt has. As far as the timing, the execution, and also the standards in which you're supposed to meet. Like Coach Tomlin specifically would tell Greg Warren, Greg, I need 1 tackle every 4 games. Because if you're snapping and you're protected, nobody hitting you, I need you to be down there making a tackle. It ain't just snapping the ball. It's making sure it's at the same spot on time and you're doing your job after you do that too.
Wow. I never heard that about long snapper ever. 1 tackle every 4 games. And you know what? You do hear their names often enough that you go, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Why wouldn't you be downfield?
Exactly. And not only that,
you better pull out a lawn chair after you snap the ball.
No, you better be around that hunt. So that's why I think at least in Pittsburgh, we hold that position a little bit more to the fire when it comes down to you being a specialist and you just walking around the football field learning new tricks on how to bounce the ball off the ground. When it's crunch time, you better be a football player.
Outstanding stuff. You know what, Moan? I think the umpires are taking the field. I got to head out there to cover this thing. How about tomorrow? How about we talk about a subject that I think you're a little bit familiar with, offensive line, and what this team is going to do and what they've talked about this week with how they're going to. I know you want to get started now. we'll do it tomorrow. Thanks for watching and listening, everybody.